voters don't even vote in the primaries. This is just uncommitted voters that are in the pocket of the Democratic Party, that were committed to the Democratic Party, that want to make a message to get the Democratic Party to change its stances. Is it possible Kamala's acting like she's playing down the middle to not lose Jewish voters? Dude, what are we talking about, dude? What? Oh my God, this is not a real calculation. Please be for real. One, not all Jewish voters are like 100% genocide in Gaza, or I'm not voting for you. And two, even if that was the fucking case, which it is not, even if that was the case, oh my God, do you think we're going to lose California and New York? Where do you think the Jewish population is? This is not a real point of contention. The only difference is there's not a very big Muslim population in this country either. It's actually, I believe, smaller than the Jewish population in this country, but they happen to be in Michigan and they happen to be in Minnesota. That's important. Notice how I didn't bring up Florida, which is the third enclave with a high Jewish population, because Florida is deep red. So it doesn't matter. I think my favorite part about libs yelling at you is that they also yelled at you for saying Biden should drop out. They also yelled at you when you said they should pick out a progressive for VP. It's bad political instincts coming back. The temporary buff wore out. I know. That's the funniest part. Every single person that is like riding the Kamala momentum right now, we're like, can we really swap out Biden? Is America really ready for a black woman to run for president? That wasn't that long ago. That was a couple weeks ago. There'd be so much chaos, guys. Oh my God, the voters would hate it. They would hate it. It's untested. Remember that fucking cowardly instinct that you have inside of your soul every single time. Remember how wrong you were. Remember how good you feel now. And then listen to me when I say that there's a couple issues in this campaign that need to be sorted out. This is one of them. Most people, for the record, that are coming in here will perhaps be shocked tomorrow when like the media doesn't cover it as much, and this is like a minor blip or a mere disruption that will be cast aside, except it will not go away. It will keep growing and growing and growing. It scares me a little bit that they do not think that people will talk about this. Protests will get even worse when school comes back around, which subsequently happens to be during the election. Number one, this is only going to continue to snowball, especially with the protests of the DNC. There's going to be pro-Palestinian, anti-war, anti-genocide protests in Chicago during the DNC. And if the Harris campaign has no clear, coherent narrative on this matter, that specifically with real terms explains what she wants to do, is cooked. And then as this snowballs, the media will start talking about Harris's lack of interest in dealing with this. And then the Democratic Party, I fear, will do the same exact thing that they always do and start complaining about the leftist spoilers. This is a perfect ticket to lose. And not just Michigan, other states too. If you turn around and constantly left bash, you will lose this election. Right now, you have potentially Obama constituencies that you can activate, you can tap into. That means you have to stand on business. That means you have to be very clear about your progressive message. And the leftist spoiler narrative is the same as what Van Jones did the other night. Oh, anti-Semitism is the reason why Josh Shapiro didn't actually get selected. Boom! That was immediately seized on by the right wing. They're trying desperately to be like, Democrats are anti-Semitic, Democrats are anti-Semitic, Democrats are anti-Semitic. It's not going to work because obviously Republicans align with Nazis. But like the thing I'm trying to point to here is that the moment that the ship has holes in it, Republicans will try to seize on that. You have 90 days to win this election. If you spend any time on this, any time talking about, oh, I guess the left wants Donald Trump to win, don't do it. Especially, and I mean especially, this is very important, overwhelming majorities of Americans want a ceasefire. You stand to lose nothing, you only gain. You need to understand another thing here. Democrats, if they want to win, give assurances to how they will follow the agenda, show feeding kids isn't radical, call Republicans weird for their pathological obsessions on culture war, and then stick to kitchen table issues. Let them say the sexist and then tie it back to abortion restrictions, tie it back to policy. Now, what a lot of people are doing already is the classic scared narratives. You have this very real fear inside of you because you're a liberal and you're constantly used to losing all the time to these goddamn Republicans. So you do not understand. You're always running scared. Stop running scared. The very same thing I said about the Joe Biden swap with Kamala Harris exists in a firm commitment to a ceasefire. Denying weapons transfers to Israel with a firm commitment to a ceasefire literally is a popular policy. Let me tell you why. For a couple different reasons. One, is it not odd to you that Donald Trump and the Republican Party routinely try to act like they are now the anti-war party? Nobody believes it. We all know that's bullshit. But isn't it weird that Donald Trump keeps saying no new wars happened under my administration? Look at Joe Biden. He did Russia. He did Ukraine and Russia. He did Israel, Palestine. That would never happen with me. He's lying, but it doesn't matter. What matters is he ran as an anti-Iraq war candidate in 2016, and he won. What matters is his instincts are correct on this. Americans overall, by and large, don't care about foreign policy all that much. Foreign policy has the capacity to become the most significant part of the election. And at that moment, oh, God forbid. I mean, if that happens, you're regardless. And it can happen for this election. You never know what Benjamin Netanyahu, who is pro-Trump, might do at the fucking last second. You don't want that October surprise to be Benjamin Netanyahu doing something that makes 4,000 Marines in the 4,000 U.S. Marines to put their lives on the line for the nation state of Israel. That's number one. Number two, the majority of Americans, including the majority of the Republicans, want a ceasefire. That's insane. The overwhelming majority of Americans, including independents and the Democratic Party, want a ceasefire. Majority of Americans also believe that Israel is committing a genocide. Now, while Americans don't give a shit about foreign policy overall, and you can usually brush that aside and let business as usual take place, you have to understand something. Just like with the Joe Biden swap to Kamala Harris, you do not lose a single vote if you come out 10 toes down stating you want assurances, you want a permanent ceasefire. It's been on the for the past 3 months, no more weapons transfers. You say that, you don't lose a single vote. You say that, you gain votes. This election so far has dramatically changed. The calculation is dramatically changed. Biden was going to lose, and now Kamala Harris is most likely going to win unless she it up and starts doing that dumb shit. Oh, you're just privileged, and that's why you care about the literally least privileged people on the planet. The whole point is, as an American voter, I have a voice. As an American taxpayer, I have a voice. I'm supposed to have a voice. It's a democracy. What do you mean I'm privileged? Yeah, I am privileged to be an American, and as a goddamn American citizen, we are using our privilege to stop this genocide. Anyway, let's listen to Dearborn, Michigan Mayor on the uncommitted movement and Kamala Harris.
Group that has vowed to vote uncommitted in the election to protest the war in Gaza met with Harris after the rally last night, and they told CNN the vice president was receptive. They said, quote, "It feels fruitful. We're hopeful that she will engage substantively with our request for an arms embargo that stops sending bombs to kill people we love." But Harris's national security advisor said this morning that she, quote, "does not support an arms embargo on Israel, but will keep working to protect civilians in Gaza."
That person is a vice presidential advisor and not a campaign advisor for the re-election campaign. That person is Kamala Harris's VP. Like that person is acting as a part of the White House when they say that. It doesn't matter.
Joining me now is Abdullah Hammoud. He is the mayor of Dearborn, Michigan, which is home to a large Arab American and Muslim community. Mayor, thank you so much for being with us. In the primaries, of course, an overwhelming number of Dearborn's voters chose uncommitted. It was 57% that voted uncommitted rather than vote for Joe Biden. First, I want to get...
Yeah, this is correct. This man is Biden's assistant and Harris's advisor in her capacity as a vice president. Pressure on Harris while she's campaigning to be president makes sense. It also makes sense to ensure Biden isn't forgotten. If the demand is ceasefire/arms embargo now, he is right now still president. That is precisely the reason why Phil Gordon's take on the matter is inconsequential in terms of like what the Kamala campaign will do. Do you understand? That's what I was trying to explain to you. This person, of course, is going to say, say that like the VP can't sidestep the president. Yeah. Also, the American liberal political history is long, has a long story tradition of people with very real demands, very understandable demands that were also seen as impossible to achieve at the time, actually routinely disrupting protests. Dream Act protesters occupy Obama campaign office. Children of undocumented migrants would regularly disrupt the protests. Disrupt the campaign. Sorry. They would do that for gay marriage, and they would do that for dreamers. They would do that for important moves in terms of civil rights and liberties for people that we now take for granted. Why? Because at the end of the day, in order for this to at least be a theoretical democracy, you still have to respond to nonstop pressure. So you have to keep exerting pressure. Let's continue.
Get your reaction to the vice president's response to those hecklers last night.
Yeah, I would have advised the vice president differently. I think what you have is people who are hurting, people who feel dehumanized. And I think in that moment, there could have been an opportunity to recognize the disenfranchisement that many voters, not only in Michigan, but across this country feel as it pertains to the genocide that's unfolding in Gaza. And what I'm hopeful for, though, is the opportunity to have constructive dialogue. We have seen Vice President Harris have some tough rhetoric following her private meeting with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And what we would like to see is that tough rhetoric paired with tough policy.
How would you describe how she responded?
You know, for me, I wasn't on the ground. I wasn't part of the words. I think it makes people feel more dehumanized and less seen. But again, I think what's most important here is to center the policy. Rhetoric only takes you so far, as we've seen with President Biden. And what we really want to see is what is the policy conversation that we can have? How can we put a new course on what's unfolding in Gaza? Because that is what is centered for so many Americans across this country. You want to find a pathway to end the killing of innocent men, women, and children. And that is the value and principle that we're leading with.
Y'all are forgetting a key aspect of this, and I think it's because the media rarely ever talks about the key aspect here, which is that actually bringing about a ceasefire would literally be so insanely popular. Like, what are we talking about, dude? This is something that the overwhelming majority of Americans want. I feel like I'm losing my mind. It's like 75% of Americans wanted Roe v. Wade to remain, and the Republicans decided to ether that, and they've been eating dick as a consequence of that decision since the Supreme Court did it. And y'all somehow forget that, like, popular decisions lead to popularity for the candidates, and unpopular decisions lead to unpopularity for the party and the candidates. Why are we just discounting that? This is from May 8th. 7 in 10 U.S. likely voters support a permanent ceasefire and de-escalation of violence in Gaza. 7 in 10. Majorities of Democrats at 83% by May. Independents at 65%. Republicans at 56%. This is in May. Majority in the U.S. now disapprove of Israeli action in Gaza. Approval has dropped from 50% to 36% since November. This is back in March. This is another poll. What are we doing? This is not a controversial position. This has higher approval ratings than America's dealing with Ukraine and Russia, dude. If they start eating away at the momentum, which things like this will inevitably eat away at the momentum of the campaign, they'll land on the worst instincts that Democrats historically and notoriously land on. Majority of Biden voters oppose weapon shipments to Israel, poll says. The poll comes as Israel's military offensive in Gaza has become a political albatross for the White House. This does not necessarily mean that this will be their only decision maker. I'm not saying that at all. It's far from the most significant issue in the minds of Americans, because Americans don't give a shit about foreign policy, as I have repeated time and time again. America's responsible for 69% of Israel's weapons. 69. It ends tomorrow. Polls suggest there is less downside on Gaza than one might expect. A Democrat who is soft on Israel, as Biden is seen as having been, loses support on the left, but a candidate who takes a more critical line wins those voters back without losing votes among moderates. Exactly. Why haven't they done it yet? Because they're bad. What do you mean? I think you guys are just paying attention to politics for the first time or something. Democrats are bad. They're not very good at campaigning. They're not very good at doing politics in general. Republicans, on the other hand, used to be very good at doing politics. They're not anymore, but they used to be. Democrats are very feckless. They're cowardly. They don't like to make risky decisions. They don't like to make good decisions. They don't like to run good campaigns. This past month was not the norm. It was the exception. This past month of decisions that were bold, that responded to legitimate public pressure, was actually unique for the Democratic Party. You cared about the uncommitted campaign way before the Pod Johns who dismissed it? Yes, they were wrong on that front too.
And so from a policy perspective, based on what I'm hearing on the ground from thought leaders across this country, as well as from my constituents, they want assurances. And an offensive arms embargo is one of those assurances that we believe have to be enacted in order for us to get to a just Palestinian state. The reality is we can no longer go back to the status quo. It no longer exists. We have to find a pathway forward in order to ensure that the Palestinians have the right to self-determination, and that includes a just Palestinian state.
Without that, would you vote for Harris?
I think based on what I'm hearing from my constituents on the ground, and I take my lead from them, there has to be assurances on how we actually move forward and course correct on this issue. We have seen with President Biden talks of ceasefire now for several months that have not led to any outcome. And so we have to do something differently.
It's such an easy narrative, man. That's what's so frustrating about this is like Americans are so delusional and so self-interested and just like can't even understand what's going on and like don't give a shit. And then they act like an electoral W, okay, the easiest one to grab, is like actually such a hard deal. It's not, man. There's no domestic policy where Americans would be like, yeah, 75% of people want to protect abortion rights. But like, honestly, what if the evangelicals don't vote for Kamala Harris? Like, that's what you sound like.
The ICJ. We have seen the UK suspend arms sales. And so I think we can follow their lead in upholding international law in order for us to take a step forward and chart a new course on what's happening across the Middle East.
Talking to some Democratic operatives, I think there may be a calculation that if the option is Harris versus Trump and Trump's policy on Israel, that voters right now who oppose the Biden-Harris approach to Israel are still going to hold their nose and vote for them.
There you go. Lesser evil voting. You can never rely on that. That's a bad calculation. I don't think that the Democratic Party understands it. Please don't do this. Please don't think that the lesser evil voter. Oh my God. No, you can't do that. I'm losing it. I'm losing it. Lesser evil voting especially doesn't work in this situation because the Democrats are doing the evil. Lesser evil voting is one of the biggest electoral poisons that has rotted the Democratic Party's political instincts and is so unimaginably toxic. I hate it. It is a massive failure. Bro, you literally have not contradicted yourself once. I don't know why people are being so whiny and condescending, because there is a smugness and an entitlement and an arrogance to liberals that is genuinely pathological and gross to anyone that's not firmly committed to the Democratic Party. And they just cannot stop smelling their own farts. They have to be so condescending. They have to come in here and always be like, you've contradicted yourself. I ain't got you. It's like they're just as cultish as the average MAGA loyalist, but because they have like better education than the average MAGA loyalist, they think that they're coming at this from an intellectual perspective. Okay. It is so genuinely off-putting. I want to hear what Ben has to say. He made the sweatiest waltz clip.
Kamala Harris is bringing out gigantic crowds. Democrats are, in fact, enthused. They brought out Josh Shapiro for a little bit of a consolation run. He yelled a bit.
I don't get it. Like, why is he writing for Josh Shapiro? Why is he wet? That's my first question. My first question is, why is he wet? Second question is, oh my God, how much makeup does he normally use? I'm just noticing a lot of lines on his face now when he's not in the regular setting that he's in. Last but not least, why the are these guys acting like they, one, really love Joe Biden and were mad that he was swapped out, and two, really love Josh Shapiro and are mad that the Democrats didn't go with Josh Shapiro? There is no better example that the Dems did a good thing again than all of the Republicans collectively being like, well, I sure think you guys are anti-Semitic for not going with Josh Shapiro.
Voice broke, and he talks a little bit about being Jewish, which gave Democrats cover to ignore the fact that the explicit reason they did not pick him is because he's a Jew. And then Kamala Harris did an entire speech in which she really didn't talk about politics very much.
It's so funny. It's like, are they going to be like, yeah, that's why they didn't like Bernie Sanders? Is that what they're going to say next? Like, the Democrats actually Bernie. Obviously, Republicans are always mad, but they're extra mad now.
If you go back far enough, he was a high school football coach. And don't you know, he's a teacher and a high school football. He's basically Mr. Feeney, but more athletic. He's like Ed Asner, avuncular, moderate, just one of the boys. You know, a guy who can crack a beer and can shoot a rifle, but is also really, really in favor of gun control and transing the kids. That's basically the pitch.
Bro, he's mad that Walz is too good.
Where people start actually cheering USA. And why are they cheering USA? Because she says, what an amazing country this is. What an incredible country where a person like me.
I like that Ben Shapiro is mad that like America is a country where like you can be middle class, like raised by a single mom and like one day run for president as like a black Indian woman. And that is like the reason why Ben doesn't like America. It's the one thing he hates about America. He's like, I wish America wouldn't allow those sorts of things. So he's just like upset. Okay.
Middle class person, or Tim Walz middle class person, can become the president and vice president of the United States. Now, I agree with that. But she doesn't agree with that. She believes that America is systemically racist. So does Tim Walz. Tim Walz said,
you know, those two things can still coexist, right? Systemic racism can still exist and people from marginalized backgrounds can still thrive in the country. It's like some of the best aspects of America and some of the worst aspects of America. Also, the reason why you love America, because of the second thing. You love America because of systemic racism that you routinely deny even exists, and you get paid a lot of money to do that.
Is this idea that these folks are real reminders of what brings us together, that what they are really interested in more than anything else is governing for all Americans. They are radically to the left. This is why the Trump campaign has a moral obligation to remind the American people that these people are radically to the left.
I need Ben Shapiro to explain to me policies such as paid family leave and medical leave, and policies such as free breakfast and lunch programs for all school children in public schools are actually somehow magically harming Republicans. Is he claiming that these policies actually are written in a way where, like, if you're like a Republican, if you're like a Ben Shapiro viewer as a school kid, you don't get the free lunch? Is that what he's saying? What is this argument? Like, oh, these radical policies. It's like, point to the policies, Ben. Tell me why it's bad. Because they never talk about it. He's against free lunch.
So Ben Shapiro.
That kids from hunger. Wouldn't it make sense to strengthen food stamps and have school lunch be free, since some kids are in school lunch debt? Well, I mean, if you are, school lunches are not going to solve the problem of child hunger at any serious level. If there is a problem of children actually...
That's wrong. That is literally wrong. You're just wrong. You're so wrong. Oh my God. Oh, that's awesome. I love these sociopathic, bloodless monsters genuinely advocate against policies that virtually every Republican in the state are on board with.
Starving, that is a child endangerment scenario to which CPS needs to be called. If you're talking about like actual child starvation, the truth is it does not take that much.
He's like, yeah, if you're poor, if you're broke as and you rely on government subsidies of any kind, including but not limited to like having the government take care of 2 meals for your child, then Child Protective Services has to come in and kidnap your child. Please, dude. This is what I always mean. This is why it's so good when you actually do progressive economic policies, because these bloodless monsters, these bloodless sociopathic monsters have to explain their worldview. And when they do that, you can just literally show the world what they think. You can show the world what they think. No Republican with a child who's going to school is going to hear that and go, yeah, no, I actually think that's a good idea. I'm telling you, that's weirdo behavior, dog. That's weirdo behavior. Don't let them run the table on issues that they have already successfully captured the American audience on. Force them to openly explain away their psychopathic, bloodthirsty, bloodless, soulless, sociopathic worldview.
Much money to feed a child. I know I have 3 of them. You should be feeding your child before you feed yourself. It's that simple. There's a much deeper problem at work than school lunches if kids are legitimately starving.
That's great. That's his policy, dude. That's his policy solution. We're going to kidnap your children, dude. Small government, by the way. I love small government. Hey, man, are you too broke? Do you not have a multi-gorillion dollar media company like I do, where I just chirp about dumb all day? Then you should have your children be kidnapped. Great take, man. Great take, man. That's awesome, dude. Thank you. Let's continue with Ben Shapiro. I want to see what else he has to say. Let me tell you, from the people that brought to you, Barack Obama is a Muslim Kenyan terrorist, okay? And basically ran with that, by the way, and voted for a guy who repeated those insane racist conspiracies is going to be the cry bullying. Okay. Oh my God. I love the cry bullying coming from the Republican Party. They, on a daily basis, lie about everything. Their policy positions are built on top of hysterical lies, oftentimes racist, vitriolic sentiment. Okay. Hysterically racist, vitriolic sentiment. But then beyond that, they also lie about all manner of different things. This is the party that said Paul Pelosi was gay lovers with David DePipe, okay, who broke into Nancy Pelosi's house and tried to kill Paul Pelosi and kidnap him. Very much ran with that, okay? They did. Now, they might have been right on that. I'm sorry. I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop doing that. I'm going to stop saying that David DePipe and Paul Pelosi were in a gay relationship. I'm going to stop doing that. But like these guys who regularly lie all the time about every single thing, now they're going to turn around and be like, JD Vance never couch, and it's really messed up that Tim Walz actually brought up the couch thing.
It doesn't exist in Hillbilly Elegy. Supposedly JD Vance having some sort of sexual relationship with the couch is really stupid, but it's become a Democrat meme, and now you've got the vice presidential contender who's actually throwing that out there in public. Wink, not even stopped and said, you can see what I'm doing there.
Here's the video, by the way. Let's roll the clip.
I gotta tell you, I can't wait to debate the guy. That is, if he's willing to get off the couch and show up. So, you see what I did there?
He's such a dad, bro. That is such a... He has the vibes. Sorry, it puts a smile on my face because it's like a lot of old head Hasanabi fans know I love that classic like dad joke. I love classic dad jokes because of that Applebee's TikTok. Yeah, like the... I guess they let anybody in here. Like he had that locked in the chamber, dude. You can tell. Look at his face. He had that locked in the chamber. Now, before you go, I guess Democrats are running with the Twitter memes as well. So the Democrats are using Twitter talking points too. No, dog. He knows JD Vance didn't a couch. Okay. He's joking. There's a difference between that and then some dude seriously being like, he's a Somali. He genuinely changed the flag of Minnesota to look like the Somali flag. What the are you saying? Yeah, he's the crypto Somali VP. You understand that there's a difference between him being like, see what I did there? Like a double entendre, also known as a joke. Republicans being like, Kamala Harris is literally not black. So that's what he was chirping about. It is pretty funny that these guys will turn around and be like, I can't believe that they are saying these really mean things about JD Vance. How dare they? And I saw a couple tweets on the timeline of them being like absolutely nutty about this. Here's number one from the Majority Report. Slandering someone based on a post is indeed propagating misinformation and is very bad behavior. And this is very bad story. Instead of Republicans are complaining story, if I made a concerted effort. And this guy turned around and did. I've seen the video at Tim Walz. The top of the standard issue orange traffic cone, raw dog. Crazy thing about it, he's like freely suspended over top of it. The base of the cone is supporting all of his weight. Doesn't make any sense, but it's impressive. He was trying to make a joke. This is a conservative man attempting to make a joke. Anyway, here's you slandering someone based on a post. Meet Dee Dee Duffy, a preschool teacher in Cape Coral, Florida. She says teaches her students that if they don't like their parents, they can find another family. She also teaches them to be gay. This right here goes from coworker conversations to like, oh, ew, we got to avoid this guy at the place of business. Possibly an HR violation. You know what I'm talking about? That's one of my favorite TikTok popularized sentiments is like, oh, this is a coworker type song. I love that. This turns into not a coworker take, but instead an HR violation very quickly. Yeah, coworker take. Find out about Hochtool from my coworker. I think that tweet is an obvious joke. Yes, it is an obvious attempt at a joke. It is an obvious attempt at a joke, but they're being weird about it. They're not doing a good job. The other thing that Osita actually put forward pretty well. So this is slandering someone based on a post, indeed propagating misinformation and really bad behavior. And it would be a this is very bad story instead of Republicans are complaining story. If I made a concerted effort to go on TV and imply Governor Walz a traffic cone. Yes, I know that you're a prude who can't take a joke if you point out that telling lies about a public figure inanimate objects is bad and juvenile, and it's such a fun treat because the public figure can't defend against it without elevating it and debasing themselves. All the misinformation reporters can go traffic cones. She said that, and Osita quote tweeted and said, exactly zero interest in hearing from people who spent the last 15 years on TV shows aimed at convincing old people Democrats are going to do Sharia law about this joke. I'll be fully willing to reconsider the propriety of the couch joke if it leads to a terrorist attack on Congress as they're trying to certify an election. I'm not unreasonable. The right should be thanking Jesus every single day that the Democratic Party is run by people whose idea of responding in kind to years of fully unhinged and depraved Republican rhetoric and misinformation is a goofy little meme, and the word weird couldn't be me. Yeah, meanwhile, Stephen Miller is saying, under the Harris-Walz plan, they're going to turn the entire Midwest into Mogadishu. That is a perfect representation of like how unimaginably unhinged the right is on a daily basis. This is exactly like when they tried to turn around and say that calling Trump Hitler is the reason why he got shot by a registered Republican, mind you. Like, what are we doing? Democrats are pussies. I wish they would be more aggressive in their language, dude. What are you talking about? So is JD's fault? First of all, yes, it is his fault. You want to know why? Because he's a charismaless, a careerist, soulless piece of and a blood boy to Peter Thiel, who got $10 million from Peter Thiel and now is stuck on a ticket after years and years of trying to retriangulate to the worst groypers online to like really beef up his bona fides in terms of like how much of a Republican he is now getting his comeuppance. So yes, I think people saying he couch, well, knowing he never really couch, is perfectly valid. We are talking about the Republican Party who didn't just make memes, actively ran on the lie that Ilhan Omar, her brother. What are we talking about? There are still tons of Republicans who literally believe that. So no, I don't give a shit about the couch. I think the Democrats should do more of it, okay? They're so incredibly racist. And yeah, the reason the couch thing worked was because it was an organic post with no strings attached. It was just purely for shits and giggles. They can't just take that fallout and turn it around. It's too transparent. They still call Michelle Obama a man, but they are the number one cry bullies. And Ben Shapiro is doing that right now because he's such a little gross little piece of
The whole idea here. Meanwhile, don't worry, he's bringing Americans together. Now, at no point were the challenges that actually face the country ever brought up. The challenges, apparently, according to Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, the big challenges are that Obamacare might get repealed. That's like the big challenge. The big challenge is that Donald Trump might ban abortion, which, of course, he has said he is not going to do and has no interest in doing.
Yeah, that's crazy because like Donald Trump has always been so honest about his policy positions. And so is the Republican Party famously, which is why every single Supreme Court of the United States justice appointment that Donald Trump made actively lied to the entire American population. And the Senate Judiciary Committee, when they claimed that they would not overturn Roe v. Wade and that it was a super precedent, they lied about that. So why the would anybody ever believe them? Oh my God.
At no point was there any talk about fixing the economy. Apparently, the big threat to the economy is the Donald Trump tax cuts, according to Tim Walz. And if those tax cuts were to continue, people might be able to keep more of their own money. And that is a serious, serious problem. Meanwhile, you have Kamala Harris out there. No mention of the fact the Middle East is on.
Hit this line every time. Republicans hit this line. I know that I said that like this is what the Republicans should be running on actively. When someone asked me like, how would you advise the Republican Party? And the counter to it is perfect, which is you want corporations to get more tax cuts? Are you out of your mind? You give the working poor $5 off and then you let the billionaires run the table. The amount of their like real income that they're being taxed on at the end of the year is like 0.3%. Okay. The average American's real income that is being taxed at the end of the year is like 37%. It's abysmal how little the wealthy pay taxes. Shut the up.
No serious dealing with issues. And that is the theme of this campaign. In the end, that's the theme of this campaign. Ignore everything. Ignore all of the activities of the Biden campaign and the Biden-Harris administration. Ignore all of it. Ignore Tim Walz's tenure as governor. Ignore all of it. They are casting a TV show. And in this TV show, you have the very charming Kamala Harris, who apparently is filled with joy. That's the other thing that we learned.
That's another great take. He's seething so hard. He's like actually mad that they look good, that they're telegenic, and that he's stuck with Donald Trump. That's great, man. It's just don't watch it if it's just a TV show, big dog.
So you got the words unity and you got a lot of joy. According to Tim Walz, Kamala Harris is not weird. Right? That crazy laughter, that stuff, not weird. That's joy. The weird dancing and the strange motions, that's not weird. That's
Give me the clip, chat. Aiden Ross with Donald Trump. I know you have it. I know you have it dialed in, okay? Remember, Kamala Harris is weird because she laughs a lot and she dances, right? But Donald Trump, on the other hand, very normal. That's why when he went on Aiden Ross's Kick Stream on the pedophilia platform, the funniest part about this is that like Aiden Ross looks exactly like young conservatives now. Like when he put this fit on, he looked exactly like the YAF boys, you know, the Young Americans for Freedom boys that you see, like the most annoying person at every college campus. Like he turned into that instantly. He looks like such a little groiper, dude. Holy. Not weird, man. Very normal.
They do not understand that Tim Walz, who had people chanting, "Mind your own business" at this rally, literally forced everyone to close their business in the state of Minnesota during the pandemic. He was one of the worst lockdown governors in America. It's up to Donald Trump and team to remind people of that. The media are not going to do it.
It's just odd because he's like seemingly very popular. Like Ben doesn't seem to think so, but like the people in his own state do think that. Like they think he's popular. They like him. I don't really understand. Like, how about you mind your own business? What do you mean?
It's easy to forget that she actually got ahead in politics by being pretty good on the stump, at least from 2019 on or so. She hasn't met the road yet. The rubber has not met the road. She's not been asked a tough question. But Republicans are going to have to do that. I don't want to open my YouTube and see 100 Kamala Harris Tim Walz ads. The Trump campaign needs to be dumping hundreds of millions of dollars into introducing the Harris Walz.
Dude, why is he so sweaty? He's so wet and mad. It's weird.
Bail out the rioters from prison candidate and the governor who didn't want to put them in prison in the first place. They need to introduce that team to the American people, because if the only team the American people see is the team that was at that rally, that's very good news for Democrats.
Zionists are fleeing the Dem Party. They're not. Like, they're just not. This is Batya Sargon. Get the out of here. Like, you saw Batya Ungar Sargon tweet, "My fellow American Jews, it's time to have a little self-respect and walk away from a party that's telling your children they can't be vice president because the anti-Semites in the party must not be upset." Like, are you insane? It's got 1,000 likes. Like, it's complete silliness, okay? The anti-Semitism narratives are so silly. Like, you're talking about a person retweeting Babylon being concern trolling. Here's Bulwark Online White House correspondent. The G.D. Vance couch thing is totally invented and arguably slanderous post, and I'm gobsmacked that the guy I've been hearing all day is Mr. Midwest Decency would pull it out at his introductory rally. A mean but directionally accurate jab of some real quality in Vance. You know, you're pearl clutching. Suck my Democrats should keep that up. Maybe not the couch jokes all that much, but like the weird narratives and everything like that. They play real goddamn well, in my opinion. Let them mauled. Let them cope. Let them seethe, okay? Here, let's get to the other Elon Musk story. What a freak he is. Elon Musk discusses puberty blockers and says, "I lost my son due to what he calls the woke mind virus." Elon Musk went on Daily Wire and was interviewed by Jordan Peterson. This is what he had to say.
Yeah, it wasn't explained to me that puberty blockers are actually just sterilization drugs. And so I lost my son, essentially. He's
also misgendering his daughter. Just a sick freak, dude. Can you imagine? I'm not kidding. I think this type of shit is like maybe somewhat appealing to like the most brain broken people in the Republican Party. But this honestly is like, it's so ruthless and gross. Like, I don't think you want to be coming out and being like, "I abandoned my trans daughter." It's just demon shit. Like, you should be embarrassed.
They call it dead naming for a reason.
Yeah.
All right. So the reason it's called dead naming is because your son is dead. So my son Xavier is dead, killed by the woke mind virus.
I'm sorry to hear.
Killed by the woke mind virus. We are an utterly unserious country filled to the brim with utterly unserious sociopaths. You have the richest man on the planet until recently, with not even a shred of irony, like not even a little bit like joking, saying the woke mind virus killed my trans daughter. Talking to Jordan Peterson wearing the worst suit you've ever seen. Like, these are such ridiculous people, bro. I'm sorry. These are such unserious, ridiculous, brain broken people. How are these people respected?
Okay.
Okay, well, the sacred image of masculinity in the West is a crucifixion. but a man who's crucified. But the sacred image of a woman isn't a woman. The sacred image of a woman is a woman and an infant, right? It's a dyad and not a monad.
Sure.
Right. And in the Christian view, those two images, they vie for supremacy, right? I mean, obviously, Christ is the superordinate image, but Mary, as the mother of God, is the female equivalent. And so one of the things I've been playing with at an axiomatic level is the notion that unless the feminine is conceptualized as the combination of female and infant, then the culture has lost its attachment to the traditional sacred images and is probably on its way out.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, he can even fake it. I have a lot of Zennial friends that fall for this type of shit, and I think it's a bad mix of lead and online poisoning. What is he saying? Xavier is born gay and slightly autistic, two attributes that contribute to gender dysphoria. I knew that from when he was about 4 years old. He would pick out clothes for me to wear, like jacket, and tell me it was fabulous, as well as his love of musicals and theater, but he was not a girl. Oh my God. Grimes about to arrive to court in Austin, Texas for ongoing custody battle with Elon Musk. And she got the Rick Owens on. She got them Ramones on, dude. She's ready to fucking go, locked and loaded. At least one of these two people in this custody battle have appeared on the show. So, and also appeared here physically. So I'm gonna say I'm rooting for Grimes. Friend of the show, Grimes, I'm rooting for you. I hope you win your custody battle, and I hope that you get your children back from this fucking freakish monster. Elon has kept their kids away from Grimes for over years. Grimes' mom's made a public post begging to see her grandkids because her grandma's about to die. Elon is denying Grimes' dying grandma from seeing her grandkids. Dude, what the why is he such a villain? Like, the thing I don't understand about these like PayPal mafia guys is that they all appear to play the role of like comic book villains. They do it perfectly. There's no scaling back on the severity of the cruelty for these guys. Speaking of Elon Musk news, there's also this. He's just so full. New billionaire Elon Musk has created a PAC collecting voter data from those living in key states through an online register to vote form that does not directly register people to vote. All of this in an effort to help Donald Trump become president. Elon backs down for $45 million a month, says he doesn't subscribe to the cult of personality. Yeah, it's because he's a fucking charlatan and an asshole, and he literally said he's pledging $45 million, and then Trump the next day did an entire RNC speech where he said, if you drive electric vehicles, you are a homosexual. I am going to make it illegal to drive electric vehicles. No, it's because Tesla earnings report came out and is dog shit. I mean, I'm sure that's part of it, but I mean, don't you think that that plays a role? If Elon is the key man for Tesla and he's like openly pledging donations to a presidential candidate who's saying, I'm going to tackle the electric vehicles problem, don't you think that that would actually also hurt? Like, I don't get it. He's so stupid. Genuinely one of the stupidest people. Oh my God. Guess we know where he lands on the bell curve. Ugh. Make America greater again. Dude, you're 58 years old. Why are you posting this meme? Why are you posting any memes? Go take care of your like 11 children. Anyway, here's Angela Carini, who wants to apologize to Imam Khalif amid boxing gender row.
Clarification and clear clarification on why Imam Khalif and Taiwan's Lin Yuting are allowed to box here, why they are eligible to be boxing here at the Olympic Games. Yesterday there was an awful lot of noise around this story, but this is the clear clarification. They're eligible to box at these games for very clear reasons. Firstly, on their passport, it says they are female, but also even further with that.
I don't believe it, brother. I need to see their pussies now. I need to see their pussies now. I'm a normal man. I demand to see pussies. And even if I see a pussy, it's not enough. I need to see ovaries, brother. I need to see chromosomes, brother. I need to do a penis inspection check. Do you understand how fucking weird you are for behaving like this? Do you get that? Show me your pussy now. Like, that's a wild thing to say, dude. Republicans won't stop until they see everybody's genitals, dude. They're psychotic.
At birth, they were registered as female. They have grown and lived as females, they have boxed as females, and it's been made clear by the IAC they do not see this as a transgender issue. It is not. It is not a man fighting a woman. There are an awful lot of politics on many, many sides. The battle between the IBA, the International Boxing Association, and the IOC, who do not like one another. Remember, the IBA is suspended from the Olympics. The IOC run the boxing here.
As an avid boxing fan, I've been engaging the community for a long time. It's a really conservative sport, very bigoted at times, and still have more understanding as the average normie that are now paying attention. It's insane. I don't get it at all. Iman has been a familiar name, kind of a subpar one, and most of the natural level of testosterone discourse has never been important. Normies right wing are so brain broken. Yes, because they don't care about the sport. They don't care about boxing, and they certainly do not care about women's sports at all. They just care about being transphobic. That is their goal. They will use anything and everything to push that agenda because they're f***ing insane. And I'm sick and tired of acting like they're not. They're f***ing weird. They're weird as f***, and they're insane. They are hallucinating shit. You're insane? Yes, dude. I'm insane because I think that it is ridiculous to act like a woman who's a f***ing woman is not a woman all of a sudden because she doesn't appeal to your understanding of what a woman should look like. Sorry, I am not capitulating to your schizophrenic hallucinations, so I must be the crazy one. Iman Khalif's next opponent posted this. The IOC Media Olympics Hungarian boxer Luka Hamori posted numerous hateful messages on her Instagram about her upcoming opponent, Iman Khalif. This is contrary to athletes' declaration of rights and responsibilities for athletes within the Olympic movement. This is the girl who is fighting the male boxer tomorrow. Oh, and then she reposted it. Nice. I hope she gets her fucking ass beat, by the way. Are they just in too deep to not admit they are wrong and that chick is a biological cis woman? Yes. Some people are just like so invested in this narrative. I mean, a lot of people are. They're just so invested in the narrative that they don't care. They just legitimately don't care. They don't care about what the truth is. They never did. Just like they never cared about like defending women's sports. Right? Like that was never a real thing. That was just as real as like Gamergate motherfuckers being like, I care about ethics in video gaming journalism. I care about like ethics in video game journalism. It's just a way to masquerade your ridiculous worldview as a more appealing position. Because honestly, if you were running around being like, I just hate trans women, I think they shouldn't have any business anywhere, and because of my undying hatred of trans women, I'm just imagining that there are trans women in every corner. People will look at you and be like, okay, that's a little weird for me. Luka Hamori, the Hungarian upcoming opponent of Iman Khalif, referred to her as corks in her Instagram stories, which is a Hungarian word that is used to describe half-breed dogs. In the Hungarian Nazi dictionary, it is often used as a synonym for degenerate. Ban this racist Nazi from the Olympics. I hope she gets banned. Stupid ass, dumb motherfuckers, dude. Freaks. It was inevitable, by the way, that like if there were no trans people competing, whether because they didn't qualify or for some other reason, they were going to eventually point the finger at cis women that they suspect are secretly trans. This is the unfortunate but very foreseeable byproduct of just having your brain be warped in this direction. Speaking of transvestigations, which is the final stage, the terminal stage of like transphobia as a mental illness, Kyle Rittenhouse is being transvestigated now, to which I say let them fight. But like, do you understand how brain broken these motherfuckers are? I'm just gonna say one thing. Holy dude, I'm not used to the Democratic Party being competent and making right decisions, but that's what it feels like when they actually do. I mean, this is like every single thing that I said would be the best possible scenario, and they followed through on it. One thing I have to mention here. Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, is the VP pick for the Kamala Harris presidential run. Now, I am obviously very excited about this because it just feels weird. It feels weird when you're like making not only predictions that come true, but also the Democratic Party is like listening to the things that you're saying. You know what I mean? But yeah, I woke up, actual banger pick. Good news. I glazed up Tim Walz a little bit on my Instagram, posted one of my older videos on him and the Democratic Farmer Labor, whatever the party in Minnesota, which I think is a sick name for a party. They're not just like the Democratic Party. They got labor in the name. They got farmer in the name. You already know what it is. Posted another sick photo with this man. I'm glazing him a little bit too hard. I know I'm glazing him a little bit too hard. I know. It's just like, if your boss looks like this, you don't need to worry about AI taking your job. He's a football coach who ice fishes and protects women's rights to choose, and trans people too. Like, he's solid as hell. He's so solid, it freaks me out. Like, it just like freaks me out that the Democrats actually went with the smart choice and not like the scared pick. They're pulling the socialists as a house on Waltz too. Oh, hell yeah, dude. Oh, hell yeah. They got nothing. They got nothing. First of all, he's not a socialist, bro. Shut the up. He's the governor of Minnesota. Like, you can't say stuff like that. These guys are so brain broken. Oh my God, everything is falling in line, dude. All the cards are in place. Virtually every single thing. That's how you know they're failing big time. If you want to know, the Democrats are doing so well because the Republican messaging on this front have been so bad. It's so bad. They're talking about how he like taught in China for a year and knows how to speak Mandarin. It's like they're gonna be calling him a Chinese spy. They're gonna say he's the Manchurian candidate and you know, they're really just going to push away what remains of like the rest of the normal people living in the fucking Rust Belt. It's great. Everything so far has been going according to plan. You know what I mean? Democrats should get excited at the fact that they've accidentally lucked into like a good situation. They just like man, what a turnaround. I know. In what appears to be just a month-long sequence of W's from the Democratic Party, just doing basic competence, doing basic decency and competence, and not like objectively trying to gaslight the entirety of the country on that they can literally, physically, visibly see. Instead of doing that, they were like, hey, how about we act like a party that wants to win a election? What if we were to say, hey, this guy that was at the top of the ticket, this current Democratic leader is too old. Everyone can kind of see it. Maybe we should swap him out for a younger, more vibrant, more dynamic candidate that isn't like dying. And there was resistance to it. And yet Nancy Pelosi pulled through. Nancy Pelosi this month, in the entire month. Nancy Pelosi, you have officially reached GOAT status in my eyes. Nancy Pelosi unlocked Ultra Instinct in the same way that LeBron does when they like when like a green player disrespects him. You know what I mean? Like tries to dunk on him or something, and then LeBron goes on a 30-point tear. Like that's literally Nancy Pelosi this past month. It happens sometimes where like somebody will try to like dunk on LeBron or something, and then he gets like really pissed off. She was like, what are we doing here? Yeah, this is the moment. This is something that it's so funny that Waltz is the pick because progressives, even leftists, have been writing for the Minnesota Democrats for quite some time. Like I myself have offered some coverage on that like way back in the day. As soon as there was a one-person majority, like one-seat majority in Minnesota, they went to town. They went nutty with it. They were like, oh yeah, no more hungry children, actually. Sorry, sucks to suck. Yeah, we're going to do paid family leave. We're going to do all these things like no more captive meetings that are obviously anti-labor. Like all this stuff, they just went boom, 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 boom. They put those numbers on the board. They went crazy with it. And honestly, it was great. This is why like Waltz, for a lot of people, Waltz might be out of nowhere. You know, they're like, who the fuck is this guy? He just seems like an old man. Ironically enough, he's like around the same age as Kamala Harris, even though he looks much, much older. Who's this like folksy guy? No, he's been doing the thing. I've said it before. I've talked about how like this is exactly like the Minnesota Democratic Party is like exactly what the Democratic Party is supposed to be like, is exactly supposed to operate like this. And you know, they're doing it. And the Republicans literally don't know. They don't know what to do. They have no way of dealing with this. They just have no way of dealing with it. They don't know. The Republicans are in panic mode. Okay. He's a football coach. He was a teacher. He was a veteran. He literally sat on a bunch of committees, including I think like the Veteran Affairs Committee, and also on top of that, even all the way back in like 2007, I believe, like he literally was way back in the day. He was already like anti-Iraq war as well. He's got interesting takes. Progressive favor with mainstream views on Israel, Iran. Yeah. Like he's definitely gonna be a hawk. He's definitely gonna be a hawk on like Iran and Israel and shit like that, which is obvious. Like, you know, don't be crazy. But he's had like some unique takes in terms of he's had some unique and very interesting takes in terms of like escalating against Syria and like that. He's an interesting guy. Like, I think that overall he is a really, really solid pick. I asked this question to Sam Cedars and got jumped on. My question is, what has changed? Why is everyone so hyped about Waltz? How would this address our foreign policy concerns? You will get jumped on because this is a moment where like people are finally tuning back into politics, and a lot of people are just straight ticket liberals in general, and they don't personally give a single fuck about American foreign policy. That is by design, mind you. The American foreign policy is brutal, it's ruthless, it's bloodthirsty, it's maniacal, and that is precisely the reason why it is not in the forefront of American minds ever. As far as foreign policy goes, do I think Waltz is going to be like all that different from the average Democrat? Probably not. But as it stands, I was a big time Bernie advocate, as you guys know, and I literally also said the same shit about Bernie in terms of foreign policy. And I said this time and time again, Bernie Sanders had like a bunch of differences, a bunch of moments where he differentiated from the average Democrat, especially on Israel. But like ultimately, it's not like he's going to be he was ever going to be like the true anti-war vanguardist leader that you think he was going to be. He was not. You have to grade on a curve. You have to manage your expectations. You don't have to care about American elections, but if you do care about American elections, you have to understand that there's obviously like American elections are going to be spoken about within the confines of America. And Americans are very selfish. They don't really give a shit about our foreign policy. It is not something that moves the needle. Having said that, in terms of Israel, it does move the needle a little bit in key districts, in key states like Michigan, for example. But yeah, Waltz has a really interesting background on foreign policy from his time living in China, where he was a teacher in China, and also has talked about not having an adversarial relationship with China, which is like genuinely weird to hear from a Democrat. So there is definitely some good there. Okay, he speaks a little bit of Mandarin. He was anti-intervention in Syria. He has been at times anti-interventionist. He's been at times a party loyalist that voted along the party lines. So that is important to understand, though. That is important to put within the context of like the rest of the Democratic Party. In terms of his stuff with respect to Muslim populations, he has a big Somali constituency in his state. He has actively defended them on the record time and time again. That's why they're attacking him and saying he's like beholden to care. He's not going to be aggressive in being like anti-Israel or anything like that. Make no mistake. But having said that, we'll see. I am not going to make any predictions on that front. Do I suspect him of being like above and beyond on the issue of Israel? Who knows? Probably not. He is just like every other Democrat and on that issue.
He's the chairman of the Democratic Governors Association. I can tell you his fellow Democratic governors love him. Love him. They think he's smart. They think he builds consensus. They think he's really funny. And so they like being in his company. And that matters in a campaign. In terms of Harris being out, are you confident that do you have the loyalty and do you trust your partner out there on the campaign trail? Does that person at tense moments, and there will be a lot of tense moments in the next 90 days of this campaign, make you laugh and make you smile and maybe take some of the pressure off you? Can you do the small market television? Waltz fits that bill. Now,
yes, Waltz can do retail much better than Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris still has that like elitist California stink on her a little bit when she's running around. She plays well to younger voters for sure, but like ultimately, you put this man in the Rust Belt, he's gonna thrive. That's where he's from. That's what he does. That's his shit. He's a goddamn teacher from Minnesota. He's got like a lovable older coach energy because that is what he is. He's got a decent amount of time in the legislative body. He has performed and outperformed the Democratic Party routinely as the governor. He's a popular governor. He's done a lot. His legislative accomplishments in 2023 onward is pretty solid as well. He is 100p a phenomenal pick, a great pick. Okay, top of the leaderboard pick. Absolutely stoked for this. The Democrats have obviously set us up for low expectations time and time again. Up until the last moment, I straight up thought that they would still go with Shapiro because Shapiro was the scared pick. Josh Shapiro, governor of Pennsylvania, was the scared pick. Okay. That was the pick you do when you're not confident in your abilities of running and winning PA on your own. And honestly, I genuinely thought like it's still gonna be a bad pick. It's still gonna be a bad pick. It's not gonna be a good pick. Ultimately, they went with the good pick. I do think that they are responding positively to what they are hearing and what they are seeing from the progressive wing of the base of support in the Democratic Party. I do think that. Now, obviously, this presents an opportunity. Keep pushing on this front, specifically on Israel. Okay. Waltz is the one that sent the National Guard in during the George Floyd protest and has been making it harder to persecute cops and implements reforms in Minneapolis. Yeah, that's actually a really interesting take because it's a big column A, column B on that front as well, because he does have some weaknesses. You just mentioned 2 solid ones, but he's also the same guy that, if I'm not mistaken, allowed the Keith Harrison prosecution to occur. Keith Ellison, not Harrison. Sorry. He's the one who at least didn't get in the way of Keith Ellison, not Harrison. I apologize. I think that in and of itself is like pretty solid. Yeah. He also lamented on his abject failure of riot response. Somber Minnesota Governor Tim Walz confronted criticism after a third night of destructive protests in response to George Floyd's death in police custody. National Guard officers said the mission lacked clarity. Like I said, he's an interesting guy even on this front as well. But of course, no politician is perfect, and Waltz is not perfect either. Power doesn't come from above, it comes from below. Waltz and Harris will be easier to organize under than Trump, but of course, they're still going to send in cops to beat the shit out of us anyway. Yes, exactly. Fun fact, Tim Waltz is the only person on either ticket that doesn't wear makeup. He's also the only person, aside from Donald Trump, since the Carter administration that doesn't have a law degree, I'm pretty sure, of some sort. Or is it like a VP that hasn't had that, which is pretty wild. I mean, the motherfucker's a teacher, bro. He's a teacher. What are we talking about? That's it. He's a teacher. He's a football coach. He was in the army. He's pretty solid. I don't really give a shit about like him being a veteran. I do care a lot more about him being a teacher. Just like with Ketanji Brown Jackson, I cared that she was a public defender. Like, these are very important things. Life experience, especially in more formative years, that truly changes the way you view the world. If you're not a like out of touch, rich weirdo, like half of the Republican Party, for example, that's cool. That's a good thing. That means that you are going to be the kind of guy that legitimately would advocate for certain positions because you have lived experience on those positions.
Sometimes life is as much about the lessons you learn as the lessons you teach. When I grew up, community was a way of life. My high school class was 24 people. I was related to half of them. I learned to be generous towards my neighbors, compromise without compromising my values, and work for the common good. I coached football and taught social studies for 20 years. And I tried to teach my students what small-town Nebraska taught me: respect, compromise, service to country. And so when I went into government, that's what I carried with me. I worked with Republicans to...
That's the thing, like, he also is, like, pretty popular in Congress, too. Like, people love him.
Pass an infrastructure bill, cut taxes for working families, signed paid leave into law. I codified abortion rights after Roe got overturned. Because I go to work for the common good. We believe in the promise of America, in those values I learned in Nebraska, and we're ready to fight for them. Because as Kamala Harris says, when we fight, we win.
We're going to get to the way that the weirdo Republicans are reacting to this. I mean, here, John Podhoretz treats boy himself. Appointing Tim Waltz, who praised Ilhan Omar, is like appointing the head of Sister Soldier's record label to run the Federal Communications Commission. And that's not like a random guy who's extremely online. That is the editor of Commentary Magazine, okay? This guy is supposed to be like a representative of the normal Republican side. They are actively bludgeoning themselves in the head. Chaya Raichik running with the Libs of TikTok account owner, Chaya Raichik, running with hashtag Tampon Tim. You might be wondering why hashtag Tampon Tim? Because they made a push at Capitol to fund menstrual products for students in Minnesota public schools, saying that pads and tampons are as essential as toilet paper and soap in school bathrooms. That's why they're calling him Tampon Tim. Bro, you're so stupid. Like, what are you saying? Like, what's wrong with you? How could this be seen as a bad thing? What's next, dude? Are you gonna yell at him for feeding children? Is that what we're doing? Yeah. Oh man, stupid Tim Waltz, he wants to feed our children with free breakfast and lunch, dude. What a f***ing animal. Team Trump is already out with a brutal ad against Kamala Harris's VP Tim Waltz. They're really good at this.
Signing a bill into law that requires schools to stock tampons in boys' bathrooms. Or weirder than signing legislation allowing...
Yeah, this is not going to work, man. It's not working. You're a gross loser. You are a gross loser. This shit's not going to work. It's not going to work at all, man. It's not going to work.
Now Kamala wants Walz to enforce those laws on a national scale. Tim Walz. Too weird, too radical.
Too weird, too radical. Yeah, he's so weird, dog. Definitely.
I'm not going to get involved in making a choice. What I will say, though, is I've been impressed by Tim Walz's ability not only to communicate to the working people of Minnesota, but to also be an advocate for them. So I like Tim very much, and I wish him the...
Wow, I can't believe how far left is Kamala's VP Tim Walz. Last week, Bernie Sanders specifically named him as his dream choice. I can't believe one of the most consistently popular congresspersons in the United States likes Kamala's VP pick. Surely this is a good angle of attack. It's like, that's amazing. That's amazing. They are so online, dude. Fox News has nothing on Walz.
That still matters. So let's look back at his record. Walz's first executive order as governor was to create a diversity, equity, and inclusion council. He also supported...
No, I can't believe he did that. Oh my God. I hate him.
Open borders.
You know, he talks about this wall. I always say, let me know how high it is. If it's 25 feet, then I'll invest in the 30-foot ladder factory.
And he pushed socialism.
He's saying that walls don't do anything to curb immigration. He's right.
Don't ever shy away from our progressive values. One person's socialism is another person's neighborliness. Just do the work.
Oh, wait, and there's more.
They're posting his dubs. They're clip chimping him the shit. You can hear the audio cutting mid-word. It doesn't matter. This is weak shit. You got nothing.
Signed an executive order protecting gender-affirming care or surgeries for minors in his state. And in 2020, he was the governor of Minnesota during the George Floyd.
Oh, they just skipped through that. Okay, got it. All right, great. Yeah, it's crazy that they were like, hey, medical decisions should be kept between a doctor and the patient. Wow, I'm so angry. Aren't you angry? No, medical decisions should famously not be kept between a patient and a medical professional who literally has all of the data and knowledge. It should be between a doctor, a patient, and me, random guy on Twitter. I should be making these decisions. Not a doctor and a patient. Why am I not in the center of these conversations? It's not between a doctor and a patient. It's me, random guy living in Staten Island. I get to make these decisions. Small government, by the way. I love small government, except for when I make the decisions about medicine.
I got a call from a friend and a dedicated public servant. Senator Torres Ray called in her district, and it was on fire. And there weren't any police there. There weren't any firefighters. There was no social control, and her constituents were locked in their house wondering what they were going to do. That is an abject failure that cannot happen. If the issue is that the state should have moved faster, that is on me.
I like that he's like openly taking ownership of his failures as what like a good, like taking accountability. Like that's insane. They're making fun of him for taking accountability. That is insanity, dude. Like that doesn't make him look bad, dumb. Folks, accountability has got, it's woke. This man is taking accountability. What a woke loser. Tim Walz, here, this is what he said about the uncommitted vote in his own state, by the way. This is something to remember. It is pretty significant.
Votes right now, 20% of the vote going to uncommitted. And we've seen that already in this primary in Michigan. What message are voters in your state trying to send to President Biden? And what do you want to see President Biden do in response?
Yeah, look, they're engaged. We're really proud in Minnesota. Civic responsibility. We have some of the highest voter turnouts. These are voters that are deeply concerned, as we all are. The situation in Gaza is intolerable. And I think trying to find a solution, a lasting two-state solution, certainly the president's move towards humanitarian aid and asking us to get to a ceasefire, that's what they're asking to be heard. And that's what they should be doing. We've gone through this before, and we know that now we make sure we've got 8 months. We start bringing these folks back in.
That's why I said he's interesting because, like, again, big Somali population in the state. He has routinely gone out to bat to defend them, defended Ilhan Omar, and also on top of that has like delivered a speech to CARE, which is unheard of. Okay, like outside of like specific Michigan congresspersons and like Rashida Tlaib and like that, you don't ever get that kind of, you don't even get that kind of lip service from the Democratic Party. That's probably why they're going to run with that's why they're running with he's a secret Muslim narrative. For those of you who don't know, CARE is the Council on American Islamic Relations, okay? Dude had a dynamite interview on Ezra Klein. Yeah, I know. I was very Walt-pilled after that interview. He was great. He does a really good job. He does a really good job of not just like saying that Republicans are weird, but also then basically saying like, look, I push for progressive policies because I want to help people. I want to help people that, got me elected. And I want to make sure like Republicans, whether they admit it or not, doesn't matter. They also benefit from paid family leave. Republicans also benefit from feeding children at schools, right? Like school lunch programs, like free breakfast and lunch programs. That's popular. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican or not. Republicans don't want that to happen. So they just hyper focus on weird stuff. And he's right. This is a great take. Exactly. Thank you for doing the obvious correct thing instead of letting a bunch of consultant freaks trick you into map math. But Pennsylvania is a critical state. Yeah, but what if you just try to win all the other ones by choosing the best possible campaigner? Yes, it's 100% true. What is this? 5 minutes and 26 seconds of Tim Walz being awesome. This is the beautiful moment that everyone will be playing in campaign ads if the Democratic Party is even remotely smart about their strategy. This is when he signed into law free breakfast and lunch programs for all school children in his state. This was an emotional moment. This is a phenomenal thing that he did. He's literally a school teacher. Like, what are we talking about, dude? Come on, man. Come on, man. That's crazy. That's beautiful. That's wholesome.
Here out at the state fair with my daughter, Hope. Every year we as a family.
She's named Hope because she's an IVF baby, by the way. Another solid part of the story is like the IVF part, which is what some Republicans want to ban. Oh my God.
Something new. I get to pick something, a classic, the old mill ride, to do that. And then Hope gets to pick something new.
I think we're gonna go do the slingshot.
Which I don't know what it is, and they're keeping it from me. But then we're gonna go get some food, corn dog.
I'm vegetarian.
Turkey then. And
turkey's meat.
Not in Minnesota, turkey special. And we will go do some of those things and report back.
Oh my God.
Dude, it's like, oh God, I'm losing my mind. Dude, I'm losing my mind. It's like a gift. Like, you will not see JD Vance in a situation like this. You will never see Trump in a situation like this. You won't even see Kamala in a situation like this for the most part. This is what I've been saying when I say the Democratic lineup for talent is deep. The fact that they were stuck with Joe Biden was unimaginable to me, because there are governors like him out there. Beyond him, there's Andy Bashar is pretty solid too.
Of all her potential running mates, you might have the most progressive record as governor. I know you were more of a moderate when you were in the House, but you've legalized recreational marijuana, you passed universal background checks on guns, you expanded LGBTQ protections, you implemented tuition-free college for low-income Minnesotans. There's free breakfast and lunch for school kids. Do you think your record is an asset to the ticket, or would it risk fueling Trump's attacks as you being a big government liberal?
What a monster. Kids are eating and having full bellies so they can go learn, and women are making their own healthcare decisions. And we're a top 5 business state, and we also rank in the top 3 of happiness. Look, they're going to label whatever they're going to label.
The funniest thing is climate change will make Minnesota one of the most livable places in the United States of America. So like, there's also that aspect of it as well. Wasn't it? It was literally Minnesota, right? Like it was like Minnesota, Michigan, like all of those states will literally become the most valuable states in the nation as a consequence of climate change. My mom was a public school teacher and an elector and campaigned for him when he ran for state office. She talks about how even though he had a busy schedule who came to speak in her government classes. Yeah. Minnesotans are going to become insufferable. I mean, they deserve it. They deserve this momentum.
Well, he's going to roll it out, mispronounce names, to try and make the case. The fact of the matter is, where you see the policies that Vice President Harris was a part of making, Democratic governors across the country executed those policies, and quality of life is higher, the economies are better, all of those things. Educational attainment is better. So, yeah, my kids are going to eat here, and you're going to have a chance to go to college, and you're going to have an opportunity to live where we're working on reducing carbon emissions. Oh, and by the way, you're going to have personal incomes that are higher, and you're going to have health insurance. So if that's where they want to label me, I'm more than happy to take the label.
I mean, it's incredible. It's beautiful. It's wonderful. I'm on board. Like, this is great.
How are you going to build a water treatment plant in a town of 400 if you don't have a collective effort at it? So I have to tell you, they scream socialism. We just build roads, and we build schools, and we build prosperity into this. Their whole plan is to go backwards, to give tax cuts to the wealthy. And look, it was so surprising. These super successful Donald Trump, who inherited $400 million and then proceeded to fail at everything. Middle America, you earn it, but you know what? You're not on your own. Neighbors help neighbors. And I will, this one bothers me. I heard you talking about punching back at the bullies. They see people less fortunate as scapegoats and punchlines for their jokes. We see them as neighbors.
Bro, he lasers JD so much. He literally, oh my God. Even when he was talking to Ezra Klein, who is, again, a liberal and a bit of an elitist and one of those like bi-coastal Andes, like Ezra kept trying to talk about like how JD Vance is actually really interesting that he became like the hillbilly that has this anger and resentment. And all of that is fake. And you could see in that conversation where he's talking to Ezra Klein, where he's like, no, dog, that's just like, those are my neighbors. Like, that's not like he even managed that conversation pretty well as well. I think. Will the standard voter care? I think so. It's entirely dependent on the hundreds of millions of dollars that they are fundraising currently and how they put that to work. The way you feel about this guy right now, from just my like regular coverage, from his media slots, like from his regular old appointments that he's doing in the media before he was picked as the VP. Think about the way you feel, and then try to think about like what a normal person, how a normal person would feel when they hear this. Do you think that like a normal person reads this as inauthentic? Or do you think a normal person would read this as like a pretty authentic, run-of-the-mill, salt of the earth kind of guy who is genuinely being like, I don't know about this socialism. I care about building roads, man. What the fuck are we talking about? I care about being neighborly.
Yeah, first of all, it was up to him. I wouldn't have a family because of IVF and the things that we need to do reproductive. My kids were born through that that way. And also I make sure that I'm the guys and our folks are investing in prenatal care. We're the ones that are there for universal pre-K. We're the ones that are providing school meals at this. I'm not going to back down one bit on this whole family values thing, and it's us. That construct that he's putting out there is absolutely untrue. We're making it more affordable to have children by having paid family and medical leave so that you can go home when your kids are sick and take care of them. Or if you're a dad, I don't have to go right back to work 5 days later after my wife had a C-section because our insurance wouldn't pay for it. We're boosting those things up. There's nothing pro-family other than having women be incubators for their vision of this. Once again, it's weird. I don't want J.D. Vance talking about my family. I certainly don't want him talking about my daughter or my wife. It's none of his business. But I said the one thing is we need to talk about how we've invested in families. We have the most generous child tax credit, and it's what Vice President Harris is proposing for the country. People are poor because they don't have money. And when kids don't have the money on the front end, all of the things that a chain reaction of can't learn, can't go on. So I'll challenge him on that. Where is J.D. Vance's pro-family? He's forcing people to have...
He's so good with the I didn't know Minnesota went this hard. Bro, watch my old video that I did in 2023 specifically about the memes at the time were Democrats with a super majority in a blue state become Clintonites and like annoying establishment Democrats. Democrats in the Midwest with like the slimmest one seat majority are like Leninist vanguardists in the way that they legislate. They went so nutty with it. If Waltz is the VP pick, they need to get an ad out ASAP with a bunch of former students saying stuff like this. Whatever happens today or tomorrow with the Veep stakes, I'm so dang proud of Tim Waltz. I was a C-ish student in high school. Shocking, I know. Mr. Waltz took the time to make sure that I was successful, not only in his class, but others. He made learning exciting. Phones are up. We're locked and loaded.
Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris and Tim Walz.
It's crazy because they like arrive on time too, which is like a subtle thing that Joe Biden never did either. God damn, dude, it's electric out here.